This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Engage. Engage is a digital booking engine revolutionizing the talent booking industry. With hundreds of athletes, entrepreneurs, speakers, and business leaders, Engage is the go-to spot for booking talent for your next event. For more information, please visit letsengage.com. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. I'm so honored to have with us today Hector Guadalupe. He's the executive director of A Second You Foundation. Welcome to the Impact Podcast, Hector.
Thanks so much for having me, brother. How's everything?
Everything's great, and we're still living in this crazy pandemic. I know that, but it's such an honor to have you on. I read about you. I've learned about you, Hector. And to have you on, I know we're doing this coast to coast. I'm in California, you're in New York today, but to do this together is really an honor for me because this is part of my DNA and my soul. So before we get talking about all the great things you're doing at A Second You Foundation, can you share a little bit about the Hector Guadalupe story, your backstory?
Sure. Well, you know, to put things in to create an experience for yourself and the listener and everybody else out there. My reality of New York was not Disney. You know, you go to New York now, it's beautiful. You know, it looks great. You know, but I grew up in the '80s, in the '90s, and I feel like, you know, I feel like I've survived a lot of pandemics.
Where did you grow? Where were you born? Where were you born and where did you grow up?
So born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Flushing Ave, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the old Williamsburg, and I have my family's throughout the entire Brooklyn, but it was just a different time. It was a dangerous time. It was a corrupt time with law enforcement, government, and people did what they had to do to survive and raise their families.
Right.
So both my parents are deceased, and growing up young without too much guidance, like many kids throughout the boroughs, you're forced to kind of have to find your way. So
right.
You know, my role models were older peers in the community that were also raised the same way, without guidance, without family, without parents, and these role models were the men and women who traffic narcotics.
Got it.
That became my profession. And from 13 years old to 23, trafficking up and down our entire Eastern Seaboard, from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, down to Miami to the Midwest and back, that was like my life. My mean of survival. There was not really no way out, so to speak. And it's hard for a lot of people to understand that. And when I'm talking at different companies or talking with clients or with other communities where I'm sharing my story, I pretty much give the example of, picture, you know, you as a young kid growing up in poverty. It's like coming out every day with like a blindfold on, right?
Yeah.
And you can't really figure out how to get out of those X amount of blocks that you grew up in. Like, so it's like just trying to navigate without really having
a map.
You didn't have a map. Yeah. So it's tough.
How many siblings did you have? How many siblings?
I have one sister.
Older or younger?
Younger. And we figured it out. You know, I'm very blessed to even be talking to you right now, or be alive. So
I'm blessed to have you on our show today, because this is a story today for our listeners and viewers, just to share. We're not going to give anything away yet, but this is not a story of just survival. You're not a survivor, Hector. In many ways, I see you as a thriver. You know, so you've got a great story to share here, and I want you to get into it a little bit. Were your parents alive from the time you were 13 to 23, or are they already deceased?
They were deceased due to cancer and
wow.
You know, but you know, I feel like the biggest threat in any community is poverty. You know,
It is.
It forces you to have to survive. It forces your instincts to kick in, and you do what you have to do, and hopefully you make it out. But by the age of 23 is when the FBI released their indictment and started their manhunt for me.
Wow.
Um,
Were you
so
part of a larger network, or were they just going? Were you the leader, or you were just a part of a larger network of young dealers?
I kept my network small,
Okay.
and those that were part of a larger network, I never implemented, and that kept me in the range of a 10 to life. The more people involved, the bigger the indictment.
Got it.
And that's something that, you know, growing up, I grew up in the days of Gotti and the mob in New York, and my whole thought process was always keeping things small and tight and simple. So I wouldn't. So because in the big scheme of things, I don't want a bunch of people affected by my actions.
Right.
So I was sentenced to 10 years to life. And in the federal system, I've probably visited about 5-6 different prisons throughout the country.
Before we get to that, I just want to understand a little bit more here, because it's fascinating for our listeners and our viewers to learn. You were not only taking care of yourself without any guidance, without any parents, but you were also, I assume, taking care of your sister. So you weren't surviving for yourself. You were also surviving for your sister to make good for her.
Entire family. And not only that, like the guys that I was raised under, like they made 70, 80 grand a day. These skills, you know, that I was taught, what I came up under, you know, these are transferable skills today that work in business, right? And why we're able to, as you say, thrive. But the reason why I'm in philanthropy, we'll get to that later, but
yes,
people, these men and women that I was raised by, and the work that I was doing, it was always part of the game to give back. So not only taking care of your family, but paying people in the community's bills that couldn't make rent, people that couldn't keep heat on, people that didn't have food in their fridge.
You became like a godfather to your community.
I mean, every real one that had to do whatever they had to do did that for their community. And me and my team, that was something that was very important. And it's the reason why we're still welcomed by the city today.
That's so wonderful. What that survival is, I can't even imagine, for people out there that have grown up with at least one parent and they thought that was tough to have no parents. And, and so many people complain about little things every day, and they got an intact household. So to do what you did, and for those 10 years, I just can't even imagine, but I'm glad you're sharing it, because we can all learn from each other. And
totally, experiences and stories, man. Stories are everything. Be open. The more open people, especially with this new year we're in, right?
Yep.
The more we are open to listening to the next person's story, will totally give perspective and change our lives as well.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. So you get sentenced to 10 years to life. So now you go away. Hector, even though I grew up not with a lot in Queens, so a little bit even on welfare, because we had a little bit of a tough time. It was nothing like your thing. Is prison like it is on television, or is it exponentially worse? I don't know anything about it.
To be honest with you, the stuff you see on TV is like a joke.
Really?
It's like fabricated stuff.
Yeah.
But the filming that Second Chances Matter, which is our media company, are going to be putting out, is probably going to be some of the strongest and most authentic film and theater created. So and podcasting, you'll hear, obviously me and you'll be in touch. So you'll be first on deck to receive a lot of this material. But we're definitely going to shed light on the real issues that go on in there when, I got guys in there right now with COVID who, everybody in the prison who has COVID, they threw them all in one dorm together. all the sick people together in a dorm instead of separating them, and then shut down all the phones and their lines of communication to family members. So like people, like they're not going to talk about that shit on Netflix.
No.
They're not. You're not going to see a TV show expressing or showcasing the harsh realities of that shit. So you know, it is tougher than what you see.
Much tougher. And you were transferred over those 10 years. You must have been the exemplary person there to get out in the most minimum of your sentence, 10 to life. I can't even imagine thinking about one night.
I was about empowering people in there, you know, not only just dudes that were working out, but like staff members, you know, like, because wellness was my tool. Wellness was like my tool.
Right.
Once I found that in there, that was because I already knew how to manage teams. I already knew how to get people excited. I already knew how to prospect. I already knew how to close sales before landing there. So once I learned something that was positive and legal,
wow,
I kind of like, I just bridged communities while I was in there. And, you know, it became a thing. My first experience of training people and thinking about entering the fitness industry was with my experience in prison.
So wait a second, though. Here's where I get confused. When I see prison on television or I read about it, it sounds like the food is high carb and not good. So how did you find two things? How did you start figuring out that wellness was your thing, given that you were just coming off of a very chaotic and hard way of living from 13 to 23? And then how are you able to implement it in a prison structure where typically good food or vegan food or plant-based food or low-fat food, whatever is or high-protein food is not the way it typically is? Explain how that all came together for you.
So one of the prisons I was in, it's in Fort Dix, New Jersey. It's our nation's biggest military base in the country.
Right.
And they have a federal prison on the base. And that's where I spent 4 years out of my 10.
Oh.
So I ran the gym there, me and 2 other brothers. And that was my job. So with having access to the equipment is the first place that I started selling personal training. Once I started making profit off of our personal training services in the prison with like a lot of high-end clients in there that were doing time, you know, from Enron guys to you name it, they were all in there with us. So these were like our clients.
Wow.
So
were you given the gym because you were such on the best behavior? So was that a reward to give you the gym? Was that a sort of a Benny because of you were already showing signs that you were this wasn't who you really were?
John, I wish it was that easy.
Okay.
You don't get rewarded in prison, no matter how good you are.
Okay. I'm living in a fairy tale.
You gave them a lot of credit. Yo, they don't reward. They beat, the better you do, the more you get beat down in there. But what I did was, the person that I knew could get me the job, I gave him $1,000 under the table to get me the job. So that's how I got the job.
Transferable skills. I like it. You're a closer. Always be closing.
Trying to survive. You know, so once I got the job, it was a great way for me to gain all this experience, all this material I've been reading. I got all these certifications. And while I was serving time, you know, this prison has 5,000 people. So that's the clientele of like a corporate health club in Manhattan.
Right.
So I had way more clients than we can handle. And what I started doing is we have access to what's called the store, which is commissary.
Okay.
All of our systems in the country are the same. Schools, military, law, everybody has commissary. You have this, you have that, right?
Right.
So do people that are serving time. So you're allowed to spend $300-400 a month on food.
Okay.
So instead of going to the chow hall where it was like the food you were mentioning, D-class food, you know.
Right.
Instead of going there, I would spend all my money at canteen, commissary, and get, you know, all the vegetables I need, meats,
Wow.
and we cooked. A lot of us cooked our own food in there.
Really?
Yeah.
How can you explain that though? I don't know how to.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Okay, that's another podcast. That means you're going to come back on, and we're going to do that as a whole nother podcast.
Totally.
Oh my God, that's okay. So you at least got access to, because of what you were doing and how you were creating this ecosystem. You got access to good, clean food, so you were able to start eating right and getting your clientele to eat right. That's
totally. And then if they ran out, what's sad is people in our law enforcement, people that are hired to watch inmates or people that are serving time, these correction officers, these people aren't really paid much. These people aren't treated well. Right. So they can be bought as well and end up, obviously, they're bringing you in Starbucks. We're walking around with Prada shoes on and so forth, right? But like that's me and you can laugh about it, but like that's how sad.
It's sad. No, the whole
system is, right?
Right. It's broken. It's broken. You're saying it's broken on every level. On every level you can imagine. So these are things with our projects we're going to be touching on as well, what I'm talking to you about. But so we not everybody in the prison, obviously, but we made sure we had access to good nutrition, and we just made the best with time. So explain this to me. How many, as now you are in charge of the gym, you were doing the food the right way, making the best of what you had. How about were you starting to train some of these, like you said, Enron and other visitors, and you were building up a clientele list already? We had a huge clientele list. Wow. But when I was about to leave that prison and go to another one, which was in Maryland, wow. I pretty much sold the business to somebody else in there. Really? So you really had your own private gym, and now you were selling it to the next person who was going to take the mantle. And it sounds funny because you're in prison, right? People are like, what? So funny. But this is a great. I mean, listen. Besides doing another podcast, Hector, I'm not telling you what to do, and I know you already thought of this because you've got already an entrepreneur spirit, an entrepreneur brain. Obviously, this is who you really are as a human being. You got, I don't know how many books in you, but you got books in you that you got to start getting down, man. Totally. Well, John, before the Second Chances Matter podcast launches this fall, I'll be on to talk to you again. We're gonna talk about that. That's gonna be awesome. So you sold it. You go to Maryland and you start all over again there. You have to start from the bottom. Yeah, I mean, no, but it's fine. It's like what the main thing is finding productive ways to kill time. And it's the same thing during the pandemic right now with all of us and people that your listeners right now, right? Right. It's like some people are like going through a lot. Right. You can't pick and choose how life goes. So right now, everybody globally has something in common with me, right? Because of the pandemic. Well, wait a second. Well, we're all going through this tragic, horrific period together. It sucks for everybody, Hector. Not only us as Americans, but everyone around the world is going through it. So is your message really how you choose to deal with it is what will define you? 100%. And people have to understand, no matter what's going on in the world, is how the time is still yours. You still have control of your time. Right. And how you use it. Right. And a lot of our clients that we've been coaching, it's like, you got to understand where you got to get back to your basics, regimen, rituals. Right. All of that works within you. How do you serve yourself at this time? Hector, we got, we're very blessed to have this company now. We built it from scratch. And my message to the employees here, we got about 1,200 employees, is when I started hearing in the media that, one day we're all going to get vaccinated, we're going to go back to a new normal. New normal sounds like the white flag is up, like we're defeated. I tell people, use this time to make the company and to make yourselves first a new better. So when we
Totally.
get to the other side, let's all be a new better. Isn't that the way you live as well with what you've created?
Before the pandemic, everything I do is 18 months ahead of time.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
If you're not innovating, you're gonna die.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
You have to be innovating during the pandemic or not.
Right.
You
so
know.
now, so you spent 10 years. So now it's 2000. No, now you're 23 to 33 years old. You went to 5 different prisons. You said 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you get out at the bare minimum. So something went right. God was on your side. You whatever it was, all the stars aligned for you. And you get out at 33 years old. Your life is starting new. What happened? How did you even imagine what the next step is? I can't even believe coming out and seeing a whole new world. What did it look like, and what were the first steps that you took?
It was fun. It was put it like this: when I had like 6 months left on my sentence,
yeah,
I had these ideas of putting together a transportation company where family members can be driven to prison to visit their loved ones and back home.
Okay.
I had that put together and a couple other ideas. And a friend of mine, this gentleman named Corey Leftwich, he laughed at me so hard. Oh my God.
Why?
He shot holes through my businesses. And he was just a very intelligent person.
Okay.
Entrepreneur himself. And he made a lot of money from the market even before he came home. But like, he was just very sharp. And he said, all these years you've been training people and in shape. He said, what makes you think fitness wasn't a good idea for you? And I was like stuck. I was like looking at him like the biggest fool. And he's like, yo, stop playing, go home to Manhattan and kill it. That's it.
Wow.
And I was like, how did I not think of, after all these years of living my life dedicated to to wellness while in prison, how did I not think about being a personal trainer when I got home?
So interesting. You just shocked me. Like, that sounds like that was your calling. And then, like you said, you were literally making a left-hand turn going in a different direction.
Yeah, it was so funny. But anyway, after that conversation, and I had all these national certifications already because I did a lot of correspondence courses.
Right.
I worked for myself a ton. When I got home to New York, man, it was like obviously a new world.
Right.
But nobody wanted to hire me. So you already know that was frustrating. So my first 8-9 months home, I'm without a job. It was hard.
And just for all of our sake, and for our listeners who just joined us, we're so honored to have with us today in the Impact Podcast, Hector Guadalupe. He's the executive director of A Second You Foundation. You can find him at www.asecondyou, like the letter U, foundation.org. Hector, wait a second. When you were 33, what year was that? Just so we have a little perspective on timing of where we are.
Yo, man, I'm an old man now, man. I think that's like the end of 2012.
Well, you look like you're 33 right now, so you ain't no old man. I'm an old man. I'm 58, so you don't look like an old man. Let me just tell you that right now. So that was about end of 2012. So when you learn the harsh reality of employers, even though they all talk great games and everything like that, how much they want to.
Tons of discrimination.
Yeah, there's discrimination. They also don't want to hire ex-felons. The whole deal. It's just a mess. Yeah.
To this day, we obviously have a pretty decent following now, so it's not as bad as it used to be. But boutique gyms and corporate health clubs still discriminate against people that have a pass. But 25% of the entire 20% of the fitness industry are all formerly, the best like lead trainers are all formerly incarcerated. Really? This is something that's a fact, but that just shows you the systemic system in place to keep people down. With it being the wellness industry, you would think it'd be a loving industry, but it's not.
It should be democratized, but it's not.
It's not at all. It's very, very fake. It's very phony. and it's something that we're here to change.
Good.
We're here to put compassion in the wellness industry.
I love it. So now you're 8-9 months in, you're hitting a wall. How do you break through? Like, what's your breakthrough? What's your aha moment laying in bed or just figuring this whole thing out, how you're going to get to the other side?
I got tired of sitting around waiting for somebody to call me for an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got tired. It was like, damn, I'm here 8-9 months. I'm tired. So I knew a friend that was a trainer at a corporate health club on 5th Avenue down in the Union Square area. So I called him up and I said, dude, I want to come by for a workout. Can you get me in your gym? And he said, sure, I'll be training clients, but come by. Anyway, he gets me in. I'm working out. I'm like checking out the gym. It's like beautiful. It's all this high-end stuff, Right. And I'm like really excited. I'm like, man, I really wish I had an opportunity like this, right?
Right.
So towards the end of my workout, I watched the manager go into her office. I walked into the office. I introduced myself, and I told her, I really, really need a job. I really need an opportunity. Can you please? Everybody's turned me down. Can you please give me a job? And she laughed because I was so hungry.
Right.
I was so hungry. I was tired of sitting in the house all day.
Right.
Just working out and reading. And I wanted to be productive. I wanted to give back to people.
Right.
I wanted to do I wanted to empower people the way I did for men and the staff when I was in prison. So she ended up giving me a shot. And fast forward, X amount of years, we took over that entire area. And now it's a couple hundred of us who are all formerly incarcerated, probably training a little over 1,000 clients. So.
Oh, so wait a second. So this was in a name brand gym that you got the start in, that she gave you the start?
Yeah, I wouldn't even give them the credit of naming them.
No, that's not the point. But it was already a name brand gym. So you started there, and that's when you started then.
So I spent my first 4 years with no day off. I worked 4 years straight to try to build up the strongest clientele I can, and men that did time with me that were coming home, I was paying for their certification manuals, book materials, and I was helping them get the experience and teaching them how to pass the test. That's how it all started back then. I didn't think of it becoming a company, a foundation. I didn't know anything at the time. I just knew that I knew how I felt when I came home. I knew what that pain felt like. I knew what that frustration and stress felt like when, nobody wants to give you a hand,
But I'm also back to what you shared earlier about your run from 13 to 23. It wasn't only about you and your sis. You were taking care of others then. So again, your transferable skills from there, when you were on the other side of this, you were basically implementing those same skills of creating a tribe. Let's just call it a tribe.
Totally.
People, that you were lifting up and empowering and giving a voice to.
Totally.
Got it.
Which is still the mission to this day.
Right. I love it. I just love it. So now let's talk about that. Now you have how many young people working for you that used to be incarcerated, and how many clients do you guys have?
You can't even keep track because due to so for example, during COVID, we were featured in the New York Times and on CNN. So now the clients that we had in New York used to be our biggest following. Now our biggest following is throughout the rest of the country and globally. So,
after people online now you treat people online.
No, yeah, our entire service is online.
Which everyone's getting used to because no one wants to go to a gym anymore and get exposed to potentially get COVID. So you literally were way ahead of the game and had an opportunity now to take your company. You could be the physical trainer for, you become the real life Peloton. You're a real life Peloton.
We are the real life Peloton, but with real stories though.
Right, which is even more fascinating because that motivates people more. If you're training me and I realize and I get to know you, of course, which always happens when you work with a trainer, and then we become close, I say to myself, if Hector did this, he climbed this kind of mountain, he climbed Everest, and all he's asking me is climb this. Shame on me if I can't even do this. This man that's in front of me has done this.
Oh, the exchange in sessions with our clients and the corporations that train with us, it's unreal, the exchange.
Wow. This is just, now I take it that it's also not only male incarcerated, but female incarcerated too that are.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we welcome more women than anything. So, but yeah, it's men and women. And yeah, man, we're just really excited and grateful.
Oh my God. I mean, Hector, help me out here. You said, let's just call it today. You have a couple of hundred young people working for you, and let's just say a little over 1,000 clients. This business that you have created can become 20 times bigger than it is. 5 years from now, when you're back on this, well, you're going to come back on this podcast anyway. Way before then, you're going to come back on later this year.
Totally.
But you started something that's unbelievably unique. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur and serial entrepreneur. This is fascinating. This is because post-pandemic, they say a huge percentage of people are never going back to a gym anyway.
We're totally, just scratching the surface and gonna really take off in the next coming years.
Wow, this is fascinating. And you have clients not only in the United States, but you have around the world.
Most of our clients now, at least half, are throughout the rest of our country and abroad.
This is beyond fascinating to me. So, wow. So let's talk about, and for our listeners out there that want to hire Hector's people, go to asecondufoundation.org. You as in the letter U, asecondufoundation.org. I'm on your site now. It's fascinating. So you not only take on people by themselves, but you also take on corporate clients as well, right?
Totally. We got some corporate clients that they're our diehards. They're part of the community. They back us. We're building something that will unify communities globally.
This is great. And you not only do workouts, but also as you were talking about your experience back in prison, you also diet and nutrition. You take them on the whole ecosystem, the whole body approach to getting this.
Totally. Wow. We also work on a lot of yoga. We have mindfulness practices, and we work on a lot of corrective exercises, which is like a smaller form of physical therapy.
So how do people learn about you that are in prison that want to work with the Second You Foundation? How do you recruit new people and give them hope for when they get out, they're going to have a place in society?
We hold workshops through Zoom and WebEx at prisons. We hold employment workshops where we educate people that are on their way home about us and our services. Right. And we also partner with federal halfway houses throughout New York City, as well as other larger .orgs that focus on reentry. So we have tons of ways that we recruit, and just excited to grow. Excited.
We were talking off the air earlier. I was telling you about my experience living in LA as a real estate developer during the tragic Rodney King, or what they call now the Los Angeles riots of the early 90s, and how I befriended Father Greg Boyle and how we started something called Homeboy Tortillas, which was basically a branch that came out of his Dolores Mission Procto Pastoral deal. And I said, Father Greg Boyle had a great line back then that still holds today, 18 years later. Nothing stops a bullet faster than a job.
Wow. Powerful,
right, Hector?
I'm stealing that.
You steal it, man, and you use it. I want that. I want you to steal it and use it because I mean, it's more true today than ever before. And what the kids that we were helping back then from East LA used to tell me is that They just wanted a place to belong because they knew that the gang life that they were living on the streets of East LA, they had two ways they were going to end up, either dead or in prison.
Yep.
And so they just wanted a job and they were so happy to be doing anything. So I can imagine the massive hope that if I was in prison and I had lived a life of hopelessness before and of all sorts of prejudice before, to hear about what you're doing and to see that glimmer of hope as an olive branch, it must be so wonderful to bring on new and more people on a regular basis because you get to relive what you did, what you've done already, and give those people hope.
We love it. We love it. We're dedicated. And there's so much more to go, though. There's so much more we're creating. We have, we have documentaries. We have docuseries soon being put together. We have
who's working with you on this? Tell me who's working with some of this stuff. Like, how's that going, and how's that really? How? What are we going to see in the months and years ahead? Give our audience. I know when these start coming out, I'll have you back on, and we'll promote them when they happen. But how are they happening? Who has seen you, and who's wants to do these documentaries and stuff? How's that happening?
So we're working with Honcho Entertainment, which we're putting together. We've partnered with the Second Chances Matter media company, and we've partnered to put together a docuseries that's being pitched to Netflix and all the other VOD platforms end of this quarter, actually.
Good.
That's exciting. Fall 2021, we're super pumped. Wait till you hear the trailer of the Second Chances Matter podcast.
Wow.
That's going to be.
And you're going to be hosting that? You're going to be hosting
the host. Yeah, I'm the host.
Awesome.
The host is me and my partner, Max Shampolsky.
Okay.
Who's an amazing producer, award-winning producer, who also did time with me and was my first client in prison.
What did he do time for? What did he do time for?
For a white-collar crime.
Got it. So,
but listen, this is going to be one of the strongest things to hit the airwaves.
I'm sure of it. I mean, this is going to be incredible. I mean, you're changing the world. You're giving people hope. There's so much hopelessness out there, Hector. You and I know that. You're giving people hope where it doesn't exist now. I mean, it's just let's talk about another one of the problems that, I know we talked about the problems that exist for kids that are without parents, for prisons that are broken in every which way, as you pointed out. But let's talk about reentry. One of the things I learned long ago through Homeboy was the recidivism rates in America are off the charts. Off the charts. What are they today? And talk about the people that you trained at Second U Foundation and compare the general population recidivism rates with the Second U Foundation recidivism rates.
Well, John, the recidivism rates are still the same as for when you last checked. I mean,
60+%, right? 60+%.
It's a little bit. Yeah, it's close to that still to this day. And the reason for that is because, there's a difference between career placement and giving someone a job.
Right.
The reason why Second U Foundation has a 0 recidivism rate,
unbelievable,
because people are through our program, and if you look at the fitness industry, think of what you pay for a session with a trainer. That's some money. So guess what?
Wow.
These creating programs, education, and employment that have livable wages. That's the cure.
Livable wages.
You can't say, take this broom. Thanks for doing 20 years. Take this broom and go. I'm gonna give you $15 an hour to go mop a hallway. That person is not gonna spend the next 10 years mopping that floor. There's a high chance of that person taking a risk at something one day because they can't even pay to eat with $15 an hour. Wow. In the fitness industry, once they're employed, they start at $30, $35 an hour. They top out they top out at $75 an hour. You know, they receive full corporate benefits.
Right.
They learn about their 401k plan, healthcare, dental, like they get everything.
You're really giving the folks that do your program and that work for Second You, you're giving them the holistic way to live in terms of understanding not only how to make a living wage, but how to also plan for the future. As you say, at least 18 months in advance of their future.
You're never gonna, when people are provided livable wages, you'll never see them go back to prison.
That's so awesome. But that doesn't get talked about in the media. Like you said, they get some sort of social reentry program that could be really not a livable wage anymore. And that's where the recidivism rate starts then kicking them back to the way of
100%.
life they knew. Yeah.
100%. You know, the 196 graduates we have, can you imagine how many family members and people eat off of that?
Oh my God.
Are being provided for?
The domino effect is massive. Massive.
Totally.
But also, each one of them is a beacon of hope to other people that they went to prison with or other people that they knew on the streets growing up and saying, oh my gosh, if Bobby could do it, if Hector could do it, if Johnny could do it, if Shirley could do it, I can do it too.
I mean, we get a lot of referrals from word of mouth.
Wow. Do people is anyone in the system starting to see that and starting to say, wait a second, instead of me referring them over to the Starbucks, I'm going to refer them over to Hector instead? Or is the system starting to catch on and getting with it or not yet?
The system needs you to keep coming back.
Okay. To maintain the status quo, the system doesn't become the system anymore if the status quo gets broken.
Exactly.
Got it.
So, you know, we network with tons of people in the reentry space, institutions, detention centers, and prisons, but none of them are really that helpful without us pushing and being aggressive with our approach to helping others.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. Talk a little bit about, you're a young man still, thank God, and you have a big vision. Where are we 5 years from now with Second You Foundation? For our listeners, again, to find Hector, to hire Hector and 196 of his great graduates for either your company or for yourself. Yep. Be a better you. Be the best you can be when we get through this pandemic. And we're not close to the end. It's going to take another 6 months to a year for all of us to get vaccinated and herd immunity to happen. So be a better you. You got to go to a secondyofoundation.org. Where are we going to be 5 years from now, Hector? Tell me your vision for 5 years, because I want to hear not 18 months from now. I want to hear 5 years from now. Where can this be?
5 years from now, we will be the future of reentry and rehabilitation. So what that means is, if you could think of and imagine right now, Canyon Ranch. You look at Canyon Ranch. Yeah. That's going to be a Second You Foundation 60 months from now. Wow. So where people, instead of being sent home to these fast-paced cities with all this stress and anxiety, they'll be sent to a place in nature where they can have a beautiful dorm and not be in a halfway house with metal detectors. They can be released to our property, treated like a human with bed space like a normal person, take their programming, have access to mental therapy, have access to nature and peace and mindfulness practices. You know, we want to have our own land so they can be taught vegetation and all these great things about being welcome and treated as a human. Once you graduate, you'll enter the city and you'll be one of the best trainers they ever seen in their lives.
That's awesome. How long is your training program? I forgot to ask that earlier. How long is your training program?
A Second Use program is 8 weeks straight.
Okay.
6 days a week.
Okay.
1 class per quarter. We offer, aside from our curriculum, we work on tons of soft skills as well. We offer nutrition certs as well. and mindfulness practices. So there's a lot of yoga, meditation, a lot of sharing, a lot of mentorship, all the necessary things to make someone coming home feel loved and part of a family.
That's so awesome.
Community is important.
For people that are watching this podcast and hearing it or reading it, because we give it in 3 different versions. We transcribe it so people can read it. We, of course, do the video version and the audio version. So we give everybody access to this. Anyways, if they're not in prison, but they want to support your great work and they believe in your vision, which I don't know how anyone couldn't believe in their vision after listening to you, Hector. Honest to good God, thank God for you. How can they get involved and support what you're doing? Give some other methodologies of supporting your great and important work.
Right now, we're looking for people that can offer resources.
Okay.
And on our website, there's a donation button, of course, and sponsorship kits if you want to get your company involved. We also are excited for people to actually, you want to support, train with one of our coaches and help someone keep a strong flow of employment and see what that exchange and that session feels like, and refer a friend, And when it comes to community-wise, what we urge people to do is, do something for someone. Do something good for someone. Go out your way in your community, no matter what it is, find a way to help somebody.
I love it. Do something for someone. Don't only just think about yourself, think outward.
Totally.
Think outward. So when you say sponsor someone, does that mean corporations and people like me can sponsor someone coming out who needs
totally. Yeah.
How much is a sponsorship per person cost?
The education and program for each person is about $1,200.
Got it. That's awesome.
There's a sponsorship kit on the website.
Perfect. And the website, again, for our listeners and viewers, is seconduffoundation.org. Is there a waiting list of people who want to become students that are waiting for sponsors, or how does that work?
Always. We're always recruiting.
Really?
Recruiting's all year round. Right now, we have a cohort that started December 7th. They have 2 weeks left, and then we'll be starting up another class in the next 4 weeks.
So there's always a waiting list of people that are looking for sponsors to get trained.
Totally.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is just beautiful. Well, Hector, here's the deal. I love what you're doing. I want to support what you're doing. First of all, I'm going to sponsor some of your students, number 1. Number 2, I also want you to know you're always welcome back here. I want you to keep coming back here. And even though you're going to have your own podcast, I want you to come back on The Impact, because I want you to keep sharing your journey as you keep progressing and creating a bigger and greater vision. It's important in every way we can to get your message out so more people hear it and more people start becoming part of the solution than the problem. As you say, there's so many broken chains along the way in society. There's so many broken chains. And for our listeners out there that want to find Hector and his great organization and his trainers and support by sponsoring students, by hiring them, for bringing them into your corporation to get people healthy. So when we get through this pandemic, we can all be our best selves. Go to www.aseconduffoundation.org. Hector Guadalupe, God bless you and the work that you're doing. You're a blessing today to be on The Impact. You're a blessing to all of us in America. You are going to change the reentry world. I have great faith in what you're going to do. And thank you for being a guest here today. And I can't wait to have you back on.
Thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me.